So let's begin with my first pick of the the 2024 NFL Draft for me. Let's play some music. The Chicago Bears selecting, this is an obvious one, Caleb Williams. This is probably the most this is sort of like the Zach Wilson Jets thing back in 2021. Set it in stone, just leave it there. This was an instant decision. Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in this draft class, hands down. He has an incredible arm talent, throwing the run. We're talking about comparison to Patrick Mahomes here. He's a lock to be the number one player off the board. His ability to extend plays and make tremendous throws, like I said, is Mahomesian. This is what people are comparing Caleb Williams to Patrick Mahomes, which might be a little bit early. The most impressive thing about him, besides his throw on the run, is probably his touchdown to interception ratio. 93 touchdowns, only 14 interceptions in 3 college seasons. He has pretty good footwork. The major problem with him is he doesn't take the easy way out. He always stays around a little bit too long to try to look for the biggest the biggest and flashiest play for him instead of making the best play where it could just be a simple curl route to just keep the sticks moving. Instead, he's trying to get that 45-yard bomb to get, maybe some highlight reels on YouTube and make himself maybe feel better. But he needs to take the easier route. That's what Mahomes did. Early in Mahomes' career, he was doing the flashiest plays ever. 75-yard bombs to Tyreek Hill. When Tyreek Hill's gone, we've seen him adapt and grow to a much more, close-knit offense of dinking and dunking. I believe he's had the lowest air yards per completion for the past couple seasons, and he has led the league in yards after the catch for a very, very long time now, and that's thanks to his ability to transform his own play style. Caleb Williams will need to learn that, and this last season, I think we got to be honest, we saw regression. We saw a lot of regression, but the Bears need a quarterback. They traded away Justin Fields. Their offense is pretty good with they got DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, they got DJ Moore. They have a pretty good offense, a better offense arguably they had than when they had Justin Fields as their quarterback. So for me, I will take Caleb Williams at my number 1 pick. Number 2, the Washington Commanders select Drake May, quarterback, North Carolina. Now, it's a little bit different from a lot of the mock drafts. I've seen J.J. McCarthy go here. I've seen Drake May, and I've also seen Jaden Daniels. But I think they're going to retry again on a UNC quarterback. Sam Howell was their last quarterback pick, and he went to the UNC. And it's actually I brought the stats before, very, very similar collegiate career. But Drake May, tremendous arm talent. That's what people love about him. Deep ball like no other. He was number 3 in deep passing according to PFF. He has no problem attacking any tight windows. He's sort of a gamer. He has a great ball speed, can throw the ball very, very, strong with a lot of velocity. And this is something that's very, very great for him. And, in this new age in the NFL, this is what teams going to be looking at. He has pretty good mobility. And if the play breaks down and he needs to scramble, he'll do it at a pretty good level. My problem is he has questionable interceptions. This is sort of the Mac Jones thing, and why I don't think the Patriots, if he's available, if the Commanders do in fact draft Jaden Daniels, and why I think the Patriots shouldn't get Drake May, is that a lot of the problems we saw with May are the same problems we saw with Mac Jones. The scouting report mentions, questionable interceptions that make you scratch your head. What do we see in 2023 from Mac Jones? Questionable interceptions that make you say, what the hell is wrong with you? He sometimes runs into sacks, which is a little bit questionable. He was 67th in pressure to sack percentage. I think that's a little bit too high, but I'm sure he could work on it with a better offensive line, which, by the way, the Commanders don't have. Sam Howell got absolutely obliterated behind the line this past season. He has trouble coming off his pre-snap read. If the play breaks down, he gets confused about it and seems to laser lock on that first read instead of get off it and go through his progression. So that could be a little bit of a problem. Once again, very Mac Jones-like, which is once again why I don't think the Patriots should get him. But the fit is, they traded Sam Howell. The Commanders traded Sam Howell. Offensive line could be a problem, but I think Drake May, with enough power, with enough skill set, I think he's probably the best option for the Washington Commanders. The number 3 pick in the NFL draft, I do not have a trade for the New England Patriots. What I do have them drafting is I have them drafting one Jaden Daniels. If he is available, I do not care. Really, unless the Vikings are going to go overkill on trying to get a top 3 pick, that the Patriots should move off of, Jaden Daniels when he's available. The problem is with Jaden Daniels, he doesn't have a tremendous arm, but it's perfectly fine in the shorter. It's good enough to be a number 1 quarterback for a team. He was number 1 in deep passing. So if we love Drake May's arm, I think we should start loving Jaden Daniels' arm because he was number 1, according to PFF, in deep ball passing. We mentioned, Cam Newton. They had to form an offense back in 2020 with Cam Newton because of his ability to run the football. Now you have a dynamic player who could do very, very well in the passing game, but now is a serious running threat, maybe a Lamar 2.0, if you will. He would have to make defenses if he gets running a little bit and he scrambles a lot. You're going to need to put a defensive spy in order to keep Jaden Daniels in the pocket because he has incredible escapability and he allows plays, if they do break down, he has the ability to extend plays and make the best play possible. The only problem with it is he's only had one season of really high-level execution. Is he a one-hit wonder? We'll have to wait and see. But right now, what we saw was he won the Heisman. He's tremendous. The problem is, one of the problems is he also has a pretty high sack rate. The Patriots' offensive line, I don't love their two tackles. If they move Michael Wenu to right tackle, which I think they should do, which they did last season, he played pretty well there. I think that would bolster their offensive line pretty well. What I don't love is the fact that Connor McDermott or Calvin Anderson would be the other tackle. I don't think they should draft an offensive tackle in number 3 because you do need a quarterback. I don't think Jacoby Brissett or Bailey Zappi should be the starting quarterback. But I think Jaden Daniels is a perfect pickup. They traded Mac Jones away. They have Jacoby Brissett, which I don't think should start for them. O-line could be an issue. Wide receiver core still sucks. But if you have that quarterback, that really, really good quarterback, I think he could sort of lessen the blows for a relatively poor built offense. So that is my number 3 pick in Jaden Daniels. My number 4 pick in the NFL draft is the Arizona Cardinals selecting Marvin Harrison Jr. I do not have a trade for number 4. A lot of people do. A lot of people have the Vikings trading up to number 4 in order to draft a J.J. McCarthy or whoever that quarterback, the best quarterback is at the time. Reportedly today, it came out today, and I was thinking about potentially letting the Vikings move up to number 4, but apparently the Cardinals want 3 first-round picks in order for a team to move up to number 4. I don't think a lot of teams will do that. The Vikings probably the best shot because they have 2 first-round picks this season, but in the case of this, I have them drafting Marvin Harrison, wide receiver out of Ohio State. His catch radius is probably the best in college football right now. He has incredible footwork. He is a serious vertical threat, which the Cardinals have to get rid of a bunch of their receivers, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Rondale Moore. They need a wide receiver in order to help out Kyler Murray. Because if Kyler Murray's your guy, you gave him a massive extension, get him some talent. Let him continue to grow, because I still have my questions whether or not he's actually the true answer for the Cardinals. But what I do think is he's arguably the best player in this draft. If you just go on the big board, Caleb Williams is probably number 1 on a lot of people's big board, but I think Marvin Harrison, he's probably 1B if Caleb Williams is 1A. The problem with Marvin Harrison, there's not many problems with him. He's not great with yards after the catch speed, and I don't love the fact that he really did no workouts. He didn't do the combine. I don't think he did his pro day. He wasn't really available. He didn't talk to the media at all. However, it's not a horrible thing because there's not really much he could do to improve his stock, his draft stock, because the first 3 teams are probably drafting quarterbacks. So if you can't move from number 4 because those teams are not looking for a player like you, well, then there's not much you can do. You can't really help your case. If this turns people off a little bit, you move down to number 5 if the Chargers don't trade the pick. So Marvin Harrison and number 4 to the Arizona Cardinals. My number 5 pick. And we have a trade. The Minnesota Vikings are trading with the Los Angeles Chargers. They trade the 11th and 23rd pick, as well as a 2025 third-round pick to the Los Angeles Chargers, and they will draft J.J. McCarthy, quarterback out of Michigan. Now, I think we've heard that they absolutely love Drake May, but he's gone. They would love to move up to the number 3 pick, but the Patriots, I think they really like Jaden Daniels. And as they should, he's a tremendous talent. So what do? They got to move up and get a quarterback because they lost Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. They signed Sam Darnold, which I don't think, apparently Kevin O'Connell loves him. We saw Kyle Shanahan says that he could, reinvigorate his career again. And, well, how about this? You draft J.J. McCarthy, who people seem to love. He ran Michigan's offense very, very well. Now, it wasn't heavily dependent on J.J. McCarthy, but he ran it, well enough that they went out and won a national championship with him only throwing for 170 yards. He has pretty good mobility, which is good in today's day and age of football. He's not afraid, and he's arguably one of the best quarterbacks, this past season to hit tight windows. I believe there's a stat out there that says on the run, his completion percentage is number 1. The last 2 seasons, he has 44 touchdowns to only 9 interceptions, so his mistakes are very minimalized. However, there's a lot of question marks because Michigan, like I said, did not really rely on him in his career. He only has 155 passing yards per game. He has 49 touchdowns to 11 interceptions in his career. His completion percentage is 67.9, which is pretty good. But here's the here's the kicker. He only threw it about 17 times a game. The offense didn't rely on him. You're going to go to a Minnesota team where you'll have a lot of help. And I think if the Vikings do trade up to draft him, or somehow JJ falls to number 11, they don't need to move up, then I think this is probably JJ McCarthy will look like the best quarterback in the best situation, strictly because look at who the Vikings have. They got Aaron Jones this past offseason. They have TJ Hawkinson, who they got last season, I believe, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison. That offense is stacked. Stacked. For anybody, for any quarterback who has, an ounce of ability, let alone a top-tier, top-5 quarterback like J.J. McCarthy might be. So I think if he falls to the not falls, but if the Vikings trade up to get him, maybe jump the Giants who are looking at J.J., then I think he will look like the best quarterback when he might not actually be, because a team doesn't have to rely on him. So the Vikings might put him in the best situation possible for him to succeed. The number 6 pick in the draft is the New York Giants. And in the draft, I have them drafting, we talked about this a lot, this is a very, very hard pick for me to actually decide on, but I have them drafting Malik Neighbors, wide receiver out of LSU. He was second in receiving yards and first downs this past season. He has tremendous footwork. He's an explosive wide receiver. We talk about a serious vertical threat. That's Malik Neighbors for you. Now, the major concern I have is that he's too reliant on his change of direction, and there's not much nuance to his actual route running ability. However, the Giants do need a wide receiver. They haven't had one since OBJ, who ironically also attended LSU. So this could be a OBJ 2.0, if you will. And you know what? This very well may be Daniel Jones' last season with the New York Giants. And you could send him on a farewell trip and say, hey, if you succeeded, maybe last year, this could have been the receiver you keep throwing it to. So I think Malik Neighbors helps Daniel Jones out a lot, especially with Darren Waller still contemplating retirement. There is no serious timetable, but the fact that the Giants have not gotten receiver right, they've tried. Jalen Hyatt's interesting, but he's still a young receiver, needs to develop. Malik Neighbors at number 6. The Giants need a star receiver who they haven't had in a while. Help Daniel Jones out in maybe his last season as a New York Giant. I got him at number 6. The next pick in my draft, the number 7 pick, I have from the Tennessee Titans. I have them drafting Joe Alt. The Titans had literally the worst pass blocking efficiency in 2023. Their offensive line was abysmal. However, he is the highest, PFF graded him as the highest rated offensive lineman this past season. He is a tremendous pass blocker. This is crazy. He is in the percentile range 100 in both run block, basically in every run blocking, zone and man blocking. He is an incredible run blocker and incredible pass blocker, which Will Levis, if he wants to execute the play action, which he did very, very well last season, when they were able to actually do play action, could make the Tennessee Titans an interesting team. Now, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars, as well as the Houston Texans, are a better team, but you could help them out with some pass blocking, because guess what? Also, the Titans have dealt with a bunch of injuries on your offensive line. He's 6'8" and 322 pounds. He is a monster on the offensive line. But the problem is with him, and there really isn't, because like I said, PFF graded him as the highest rated offensive lineman. He sometimes overextends and he tends to fall out of position, which is not great when you're sitting back in the pocket during play action. So if he could just handle his footwork a little bit better, maintain his balance a little bit better, he should be completely fine. The Titans have dealt with injuries on the offensive line. They, like I said, were bottom, literally the worst pass block efficiency percentage in 2023. Get the best offensive lineman in this draft, Joe Alt, at number 7. The next team I have drafting, number 8 pick, the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to select someone that I don't know if people exactly agree with, but it should have been quarterback, and then they got Kirk Cousins. I have arguably the best defender, and that's Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Alabama. They let Calais Campbell go. They're not going to re-sign him probably, so you need someone else that has that explosive edge rush to get on the edge and pressure quarterback or disrupt an outside run game like Dallas Turner could actually do. Check this out. The only pass rusher to have more sacks, tackles for losses, and QB pressures from 2021 to 2023 was Will Anderson Jr. I think he's a pretty good player in year one. Helped out the Houston Texans defensive line pretty well. His change of direction actually is pretty interesting, and also his speed allow him to run a 3-4 scheme pretty well, especially as an edge rusher, because he can run from the outside as well as drop back in coverage, which should be interesting for the Atlanta Falcons defense. I think his ceiling is very, very high just with his explosive nature. And you know what? The fact that he's such a good pass rusher and arguably the best one in this draft could help out Atlanta a lot. They were 27th in pass rush last season. You had a player like that, I think it's going to be a massive upgrade. However, I think There's one thing that I think he should do, and maybe he can't just because of his weight, but if he bulks up a little bit, I think he should use that size to his advantage. He's 6'4", 252. The weight might be a little bit low, but he has a little bit, finesse is normally a good thing. Sometimes you can have too much of it. I think he just needs to absolutely put the head down and drive straight to the quarterback and disrupt the quarterback, and I think that could help tremendously. He's already a great pass rusher. If you just keep your head down, maybe bulk up a little bit, gain 10 pounds or so, you could even extend your level of pass rushing even higher, which is pretty crazy. He's also not a great run stopper. He's tied for 218th in run stops last season, so not great. But however, the Falcons' rushing defense is not that bad anyway, so he won't be a massive deficit because they can just pick up whatever slack he brings to the table. So in that case, rushing defense is not great. Atlanta should improve on that a little bit, but pass rushing wise, they were, like I said, 27th in pass rushing. Get the best pass rusher in this draft, and it should help you tremendously. The next pick in the draft, number 9 pick, the Chicago Bears. They're not trading out of the number 9 pick. I don't have them drafting Rome Odunze. I do have them drafting, however, Jared Verse, edge out of Florida State. This guy, you talk about ferocious runner. This guy is a tremendous pass rusher. He's tied for 8th in QB hits this past season. His level of explosiveness, that first step explosiveness, is an NFL caliber first step, I think. You pair him with Montez Sweat on a defense that people said is the reason why Justin Fields is not a quarterback, because their defense wasn't good enough and their offensive line wasn't good enough. Well, how about this? You added Caleb Williams, and then you bolster your defense with a very, very violent and aggressive pass rusher like Jared Verse. And check this out. The Bears last season were dead last in pass rush. You had this violent guy running through the line, breaking up offensive linemen, hitting the quarterback. Like I said, he was tied for 8th in QB hits. Oh, yeah, this will help you at least move from the bottom of the barrel. You maybe were able to move up a little bit. You pair him up with Montez Sweat. So now do you double Montez, or do you have to stick with single coverage or single blockers on both those guys? I think Jared Verse could cause some serious trouble for offensive lines that maybe are not, top-tier offensive lines. You help out, you give maybe Caleb Williams second-chance opportunities. If he throws a pick, you turn around, give it 3-and-out offensively, and right there you got Caleb Williams the ball back, and you gave up no points in the process. He doesn't have the longest of arms, which could be a problem, especially against certain pass rush counters and tackles. If you go to the outside and he's on the edge, you might not be able to reach out and tackle him. And once again, he's not a great run stopper. But the Bears, however, it's crazy. They were number 1, I believe. I'm gonna quickly fact check this. I believe, they were number 1 in rush defense last season. It's pretty impressive if you're calling out the Bears defense being so poor, which by the numbers, it really wasn't. It actually was the 12th best defense, or 12th total defense in the NFL last season. But you get a pass rusher like Jared Verse, lo and behold, it's improved. It's improved, especially with the new offense too. The Bears, I think they're 8.5 over under. There's a lot of faith. Vegas loves the Bears, apparently, with Caleb Williams and a potential new tremendous defensive edge rusher. Let's go with my last pick in the 2024 NFL draft, at least in the top 10. The New York Jets, and we talked about this before. I have them drafting tight end Brock Bowers out of Georgia. This team is stacked on every level, every single level, and maybe they're top-heavy, too top-heavy in maybe offensive line. And if you deal with injuries on the offensive line, you don't have Mekhi Becton anymore. You replace him with Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. However, if one of those guys gets hurt, Morgan Moses might, just depending on the history that he had with the Ravens, you might be a little bit of trouble there. So maybe you go offensive line here, but Tyler Conklin last season was ranked 26th. He's not that bad of a tight end. However, could you get the best tight end hands down in the draft? Yes, you can. You have a perfect opportunity to actually do that. Last season, I said they should either get Dalton Kincaid or Michael Mayer. They went with Will McDonald, who doesn't even start for them. It was a depth piece that early in the draft. Normally, you don't draft depth pieces unless your team is filled out completely. You could have gotten a better tight end. You did it, and now you make up for that mistake. You help out. You give Aaron Rodgers another weapon because you already have Mike Williams. You already have Breece Hall. You already have Garrett Wilson. Why not add Brock Bowers to that list as well? He's hands down the best tight end in this draft. It's not like, who's going to go first? Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid looks like a really, really good tight end, but Michael Mayer's really good too. I think this is hands down. Brock Bowers is the guy. He's a tremendous run blocker and lead blocker as well. That could help Breece Hall, as well as help you if you need an extra lineman. Brock Bowers could help you with that. His post-catch ability is also very, very impressive for a tight end. Yards after the catch, hey, Aaron Rodgers could dink and dunk. If the offensive line breaks down, he can just go back to dinking and dunking if he doesn't trust some of his guys. And what's pretty impressive is he could be a serious key component in pre-snap motion because he's had experience in line as well as in the slot. So it could throw potential defenses off of you if they change up coverages. It could help you a lot. But he does have to build up his speed. He doesn't have instant twitchiness or quickness, but he does have pretty good build-up speed, but he does have to build up speed in order to get to that top speed. And also, just because he's a tight end, he might not be in the greatest of shape. You know, his routes could be a little bit crisper, but of course, that's just nitpicking at this point. But there are my top 10 picks. Caleb Williams 1, Drake May 2, Jaden Daniels 3, Marvin Harrison 4, J.J. McCarthy traded up to the Vikings traded up to get J.J. McCarthy at 5, Malik Neighbors 6, Joe Alt 7, Dallas Turner 8, Jared Verse 9, and finally Brock Bowers 10. Those are the top 10 picks for me of the 2024 NFL Draft. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.